The first thing I can tell you is that a marketing strategy is not a list of tactics listed in chronological order. Strategy, in the advertising world, advertising is built from the bottom up, not from the top down, meaning you start with your audience. Who are you trying to reach? What is your target audience for your project? And you start there. Let's say it's a horror movie. Horror movies tend to skew young. They tend to skew female head of household, 25 to 54. So that's your primary audience. So how do you reach them with a message about that horror film? What are the venues you want to reach them at? And really, how many do you have to get? That's something a lot of people don't think about. What's your magic number? In politics, when you're working for a candidate, the magic number is how many votes do they need to win? How many voters are in their district? How many voters typically vote? And how many of them do you need in order to win the election? It's the same thing with films. How many butts do you need to put in the seats to break even and then make a profit? And that's where you begin. And this is, again, going back to business affairs. If you raised your money for your film by giving 40 to 50 points in equity to an investor, well, that has a very deep impact on how many butts you got to put in the seats if you're doing a theatrical release. Because let's say your film makes $100 million, use a round number. Well, it didn't make $100 million. It made you $50 million because half the money stays with the theaters. And then if you gave up 50% equity to your investors, now it's 50% less from that. So in order for the producers to make a break even, they almost have to put 3 times the butts in the seats than they spent in the budget. So 100 million, you make $100 million. Let's say you made the movie for 5. So that means in order to break even, you actually kind of have to make 15. Because you have to pay your investors off, you have to pay the theaters off, and then you get to pay yourself. So in order to break even on a $5 million movie, you've got to make $15 million. Well, divide that by 10 because that's the average ticket price around the country. Some markets are larger, some markets are higher, some markets are lower. So, well, 5 million divided by 10, or rather 15 million divided by 10 is 1.5 million people. That's how many people you need to get to your film. So then you go into marketing land. Okay, what do I need to do to get the attention of enough people that 1.5 million of them will actually go to the theater? Conversion rates in advertising are typically 0.2%. So if you need 1.5 million people, you really need to be able to reach in the range of 45 to 50 million people in order to get that 0.2% to make the buy decision. Now you go back to, well, how am I going to reach that many people? And that's when the strategy part really comes into play, because then you have to balance your P&A budget. How much money do you have to buy advertising with? How much is your distributor going to buy in advertising if you have a distributor? And how much are you going to spend on your free media campaign, your PR campaign? Because that's where, let's say you have a Sean Astin and Winona Ryder you can book on The View, or you can book on Late Night. Well, how many viewers do those shows get? What's their social media downline? Ironically, if you have an appearance on The View, which draws about 4 million viewers on a good day, well, their social media downline between all the hosts is 12 million. So when they post that clip of your interview on social media, you may actually deliver more eyeballs to your project than the actual appearance on the show on the air. So when you're booking those shows, you have to keep in mind what kind of social media downline they have as well, because they have to monetize their websites. They have to monetize their digital content. So they're going to be pushing that out there regardless. So as they're monetizing it, you're riding on those coattails to get awareness for your project. So when we talk about marketing strategy, we talk about from the bottom up. What was your budget? And based on your budget and based on the earnings that you're going to get, how many people do you need to watch it or go to the theater to view it and buy a ticket? And then you build out your strategy from there using the assets that you have available. If you don't have a big P&A budget, then you really need to blow the doors out on your PR budget, because your free media can get you a lot more eyeballs. Invariably, advertising lives by repetition. So if you don't have a large ad budget, where do you get your repetition from? Well, that's when the algorithms come into play. Because if you have a free media piece that's posted on social media, an appearance on The View, an appearance on Colbert, an appearance on The Tonight Show, as that goes out there, that adds to your profile, and that adds eyeballs. And if you can generate 10 million views, well, that's a very valuable free media campaign that generates 10 million views. And if you're only paying your publicist out of your budget for your film 25 grand or 50 grand for the entire campaign, that's very cost effective.